And now, introducing the man who served as the University of Maryland water boy for the NCAA lacrosse tournament yesterday, just after getting a speeding ticket for trying to imitate Tom Cruise in Top Gun. And the man who asked Pressbox for a raise this morning after getting his pockets cleaned out by the movie theater food over the weekend, he is Glenn Clark.
It's not an issue.
Not an issue?
Not an issue. I am notoriously cheap at movie theaters.
Oh, okay.
I will not, and I'm kind of this way at most events. I will not be price gouged. Now, I'm not saying it'll never happen at other events, but concerts, games, things like that, it is extraordinary. The circumstances have to be unique for me to be purchasing food at these. I am willing to rearrange my entire schedule around not being price gouged.
Wow.
It is notorious in my life. My Mrs. Clark is the type that would love to get like some Junior Mints at the Cinemaplex. She would like that.
Yeah.
They're very refreshing, of course.
Sure.
Everybody knows that. She would love to get like a box of Junior Mints. Mr. Clark will not be doing such a thing. I will not be paying $8 for a $1 box of candy. It will not occur in my life.
Are you one of those the smugglers that brings in the candy in the
when
bag?
I was a younger man, I was. Now it's very simple. I'll plan around it. We'll get dinner beforehand. We'll get dinner we'll do whatever we got to do. I'm not, if they charged a reasonable amount of money, I would have no problem. But the price gouging thing is not something I'm going to participate in.
Fair enough.
It's mostly the same way at sporting events. It's mostly the same way at concerts. Anywhere where they're clearly price gouging, I'm out. I will pay. I am happy to pay for food. I'm happy to pay good money for food. It's the thing where I know that this is not a $20 hamburger.
Right. I mean, well, hamburger in a movie theater is a bad idea in the first place.
Well, I mean, at the movie theater, you wouldn't do that. Like at the movie, I'm just not paying that amount of money for this product. I'm not going to do it, and I don't need it so badly. And you could say, well, this is why movie tickets keep going up. That's your problem to deal with.
Yeah.
I have no obligation to spend such money on these. So Mrs. Clark gave up on. She fights me about a lot of things, but within a couple of years of us being together, she realized no longer worth it. I'm not going to do it. I will not be spending exorbitant amounts of money. I will not be gouged when I go to these places. It will not happen. Now the kids, they've kind of got me around there. Like, we'll be at a baseball game, and they'll be like, I want a pretzel. You want them to have a good time at the baseball game because you want them to come back, right? Like, you don't want them to say the next time that they don't want to go to the baseball game. So you do have to put up with the price gouging a little bit related to the kids. But myself, Mrs. Clark, not happening. I ain't paying $15 for a beer. I'm not doing it.
That is a
You're not going to get me. I don't care. You're not going to get me to spend $15 on a beer. Well, then you can't drink. Yes, and I'll live.
Well, you just gotta go to
plenty of establishments nearby that are selling reasonably priced.
Well, that's what I was about to say. You got to go outside before you come into the stadium.
It's
then
not
you're set.
hard.
Then you're set.
It's just not hard. It's the gouging thing. If it was this is not about me not spending more money. It's about gouging. I will not be gouged. I am notorious in that way.
That is.
I will not be gouged. I will not. We'll go. Go to a concert, something like that, and everybody's like, "You hungry?" I'll be like, "Yeah." We want to go get food? Nope. What? I'll wait till afterwards.
Ate an hour ago. Ate before we got in here.
We're not going to leave until like 11:30. Okay. I can stop at like Royal Farms on the way home. No problem.
Yeah.
I can do that.
I had Royal Farms on the way to a baseball game like 2 days ago.
There you go.
There you go.
What baseball game did you go to?
Bowie on Saturday night.
Very
Saw
nice.
Bowie. Yep.
They were doing the beer run on Saturday night. Did you participate in the beer run?
I had a Corona, but I don't know.
You didn't participate in the run.
I had some beer. I didn't participate in the run, unfortunately.
Very good. Good morning. It is Glenn Clark Radio. I am Glenn. Zack Goodman is with us again this week from the Bat Around. Hope you all had a peaceful Memorial Day weekend. Took some time to reflect. Obviously, it was a pretty good weekend for the Orioles, taking 3 of 5 up in Boston. there were some negative moments mixed in. I guess the bloom is kind of off the Bruce Zimmerman rose a little bit, but I think we all kind of knew that he was not likely to be an ace at the major league level. So there's that. Still, they took 3 of 5 on the road. I know Boston stinks. I understand that, but baby steps, man. Baby steps. A 500 road trip. Baby steps.
Yeah. Well, you look
baby
at
steps.
You look at what they've done against the AL East in the previous, 3-4 years, and the numbers are not even comparable to what they've done so far this year. I mean, so far in series, they're 4-4 as far as the AL East goes, and I believe last year they were, I want to say 3-19-2. I could be very wrong in that, but they were incredibly terrible against AL East opponents. And let's not act like, even though the Red Sox are not a good team this year, they're still not a horrible team. I mean, they're playing well under, I think, the talent level that they have. I mean, guys like Trevor Story, Xander Bogaerts, JD Martinez, these are really good baseball players that the Orioles were able to beat this weekend.
No, I mean, there's no doubt about that. The Boston thing, that's their problem. They can deal with it. We certainly shed no tears for the issues that they are faced with as an organization. It was a nice weekend for the Orioles. We were hoping to catch up with Dean Kremer. I apologize if you see Dean Kremer there on the schedule. It's not going to happen today. I don't know what it might mean. If I'm being completely honest with you,
that's true.
I don't know. All I can tell you is we were supposed to have Dean Kremer on the show today, and it's unfortunately not going to happen. And
I guess you can infer
there is no scheduled starting pitcher still for tonight.
Yes.
Correct.
That is the way I read it as of this morning. Yes,
I am not trying to tell you these two things are related because the Lord knows I have no earthly idea.
They could easily be.
If they're, I don't want to say something that I don't know about.
Fair enough.
We'd like to go to Norfolk every Tuesday, and the idea that was floated by the Tides asked, hey, what about Dean Kremer? He's down here on a rehab assignment, and of course I love Dean. We've talked to Dean a million times over the years, and so. They were like, hey, the Orioles have to approve it. The Orioles said, absolutely. The Orioles approved. So that's the weird part. If the Orioles knew,
right,
like he was going to be back, then I don't think they would have said go ahead and let him do the my guess is they would have said
sure.
No. I don't know. It's very weird, but unfortunately Dean Kremer will not be joining us this morning, which is a bummer, but I think we might have another special guest joining us instead. I can't give you all the details, but all I can say is I tried to say this to poor Zach, who's in here helping out. Right?
We'll find out.
And who comes in today, he's like, hey, man, don't have a rundown, and I'm like, bro, there's a lot going on right now. There is an awful lot going on. Also, it's coming off a holiday weekend where nobody really wants to work. Nobody has any interest in working. I get it. I'm not mad. I did a radio show on Sunday. Rita was out to do it by myself. It was pulling teeth finding folks that were willing to come on. I was like, hey, man, can you come on Sunday? No, I'll be on a boat.
It's Memorial Day.
Okay.
Come on now.
Hey, man, could you come on Sunday? No, I'll be at the beach. All right. Hey, could you come on Sunday? No, I'll be at a cookout. Okay.
Wow. The guys who were calling seem like they're having a nice life.
No, I mean, they were all
fun time.
They were all very, hey, I'd love to come on next week. Thanks. I'll worry about that next week.
That'll be helpful.
Yeah, worried about this right now. All right, today's show is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. It was a great weekend to be at the FanDuel Sportsbook for all of the various events, but the big events don't end there. The NBA Finals get underway on Thursday night, and I've tried telling you a few times, the biggest crowds at the FanDuel Sportsbook are for football and basketball games. And so they're expecting massive crowds for the NBA Finals, which, again, get underway this Thursday night, Boston, Golden State. If you want to be in there on Thursday, Sunday night for Game 2, hanging out, getting your bets in on the 61 self-service kiosks, then the thing you need to do is email events@sportssocialmd.com in order to reserve your spot as the NBA Finals get underway this Thursday night. All right, we are scheduled this morning. We were scheduled to chat with Dean Kremer. That's off the table. We are scheduled to also chat with Patrick Stevens, our buddy from the Washington Post, USA Lacrosse Magazine. We are scheduled to catch up with him. Also, we are scheduled to catch up with, you know what? I think we can go ahead and do this. I think John Tillman's going to join us. I don't know if you've heard of him. He just won a national championship.
Sure did.
I think we're going to chat with him in just a second. And then also this morning we are scheduled. I'm really excited about this. As you pointed out, I did see Top Gun.
I need to talk about this. This is a.
Have you?
I have not seen it. I didn't see it yet.
Do you have any intention of seeing it?
I might. It depends.
Okay. All right. I don't know if you know the entire world.
Well, right. I've heard this is
it's like the highest,
the greatest thing since sliced bread.
It's like the highest grossing number. If you don't mind giving that
Sure.
number a phone call right now, I appreciate it. I was unaware. I was very excited about Top Gun, and I wanted to do something on the show Top Gun related, and I found out that former Navy women's soccer player, Commander Kristen Hansen, was involved with the making of Top Gun Maverick. She might have been a bit of an inspiration for Monica Barbaro's character, and then she apparently actually took Monica, at least, and maybe some others, out on flights. So I'm excited about this. This is really cool. Commander Kristen Hansen, Dragon is her call sign, is scheduled to join us a little bit later on in the show. A former Navy women's soccer player is scheduled to check in with her and discuss her involvement with Top Gun Maverick, which I think is a really cool thing, and I'm looking forward to doing that. So all of that scheduled for today's show. Looking forward to having those conversations. We will also do Simply the Bets a little bit later on. Simply the Bets, as always, is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. We do it every Thursday morning at 11:40. Maybe try calling him from my cell, see if you can't coordinate that. And he just texted me, said he was good to go. So I don't know. Lieutenant Commander, sorry, what am I doing here? Simply the Bets. Simply the Bets. We do have 11:40 every Tuesday morning, and we're going to do it today at 11:40. And then we'll have Weekend at Bookies this Thursday morning at 11:40. Okay, So today, Simply the Bets. Thursday, Weekend at Bookies. All brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. Everything's good. We are going to chat with John Tillman. Maryland wins the NCAA championship, finishes the season undefeated, which is remarkable. Incredible accomplishment for the University of Maryland as they hung on and defeated Cornell yesterday to finish the year 18-0, the best record for an undefeated team in NCAA history, and they most certainly avenge falling just a game short of doing the exact same thing, going undefeated and winning a title a year ago. Joining us now for the second time, a national champion as head coach here at the University of Maryland. It's a pleasure to welcome back to the program Coach John Tillman, who's with us on GCR. Coach, I know it's got to be an insane day. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes to squeeze us in this morning.
Yeah, no problem. It's been a kind of crazy couple weeks here. Certainly a really fast and furious last few days. You can't make up some of the stuff that happened between the weather delay and, guys getting hurt and the weather and, guys cramping, guys, whatever. So that's kind of how life is. And it's part of the process, right? It's just whatever comes your way, try to manage it to the best of your ability.
Our friend Patrick Stevens wrote at USA Lacrosse Magazine, he used the term, it's all that mattered, that none of the other stuff, the fact that it got, kind of hairy there for a minute in the fourth quarter, all the stuff you just talked about, all that matters is your national champions. Did you have that feeling as the day went on? Like all of this stuff that we've had to go through, who the hell cares? We're national champions now.
Yeah, we definitely. I give our kids a lot of credit. There's no easy way to kind of win that last game, but we certainly weren't kind of, when you look at the macro view, like the draw was a pretty challenging draw to play a team that was the two-time defending national champion and ranked really in the top 5 in the coaches poll most of the year is in the quarters. And then having to come back, and by the time I got back on that Sunday, from that Sunday quarterfinal, I got back to my house at about 5 a.m. We bussed back, and we had some bus problems, and the kids were pretty gassed from that, and then we had to turn around on Thursday morning, practice at 7:30, and then drive up to Hartford. So it was fast, furious. We had a few injuries that we had to deal with. We had that delay. Certainly both teams had to deal with the delay. So, but it was just crazy. We went from, thunder and lightning. We were over at the game. We went back to the hotel. We went back. By the time I started watching film on Saturday night to get ready for Cornell, I think it was 11:45. So I think a lot of us were running on fumes. And, Cornell is obviously a great team, fortunate to get the win. And I thought they played hard as they have all year and played well. just you could tell we were starting to run out of gas. Guys were going down, and if that was another quarter, I'm not sure what happens.
Yeah, the good news is it wasn't. The good news is you never have to worry about that. Coach John Tillman with us on GCR. Coach, when we chatted a couple weeks ago, it was before the Virginia game, and it really struck me. You said, we're not trying to hide from what happened. We know what happened, and we're not trying to have them block it out. We're not trying to ignore the fact that this is the team that's knocked us out the last couple of years. And I talked to John Donville last week, and obviously the Cornell thing for him, for you, it's out there. How were you able to handle all of these things, all of the pressure that came with undefeated season, coming up short a year ago, the school that this young man was at, the school that means so much to you, all of that stuff? How were you able to use all of that in order to get across the finish line?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's communication. You're trying to get a sense of what are the kids hearing, and then what do we do to bring them back to center. You could tell it was, John and I were out in Ohio last year, and we were watching the Cornell-Delaware game because we were just kind of waiting for them to finish. And, we get over there early and just sitting in the locker room. So you're sitting in the locker room where you can come out and you can watch the other game. So John and I were out by ourselves, and, we're watching Delaware and Cornell, and John looks at me, he goes, we're going to play Cornell. And I said, well, I don't know. You don't know. He goes, oh, no. He goes, I'm just telling you, this is going to happen. And he was right. And he was definitely not. I think both of us are so fond of Cornell, and we're so thankful for our experience there. And that place means a lot to us. The people, our relationships, it's part of who we are. So sure, you're pulling for them to win every game, but then that means if you're playing them, it's like, oh, really? I'd like to have a little bit more, bad blood or, like more angst against these guys. And I certainly have fond of that play. The coaching staff there, I'm very connected with. We scrimmaged them in the fall. We have. So I'm always pulling for those guys. I'm pulling for those kids. I have a mentee. One of the kids on the team is my mentee as a Cornell mentor and alum, and that was Chase Erlin. So, the guy that was making those saves yesterday,
Man.
I was trying to kind of talk to him about, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to coach? And, how can I help you? Because people helped me along the way. So kind of a weird vibe, but proud of those kids, proud of Connor. What a tremendous job those guys did this year. And, just the way they play, the way they carry themselves, and that the future of that program, super bright.
I want to talk about Bubba, if I could, for a second, Coach, because, I'm sure there have been people that, for whatever reason, have been critical of Bubba because he came in with so much hype, and he was, what he did yesterday, what he did this season, the selflessness of making the move, and then stepping up the way he did to help you guys win a national championship. To me, it's one of the more special stories in recent lacrosse memory.
I think what people didn't know behind the scenes was, Bubba took a few injuries that we never really talked about, and I never felt like he truly got back to the 100% health he was as a freshman. And I think that always bothered him a little bit because he knew what he was capable of, and it was a little bit frustrating to him. But he never made it about himself. He never pouted, never complained. But deep down inside, I think he's got high standards, and he obviously wanted to do his best for the team. But I heard some of that stuff and saw some of that stuff, and, obviously was a guy that I know the value that he's always brought as a player. There's what he does on the field, but what Bubba does off the field, the type of teammate he is, type of leader, what he does for our young guys is immeasurable. So I just was so happy when he moved over and people saw what a great job he was doing. He gets drafted high, and he was incredible yesterday. I thought he played his best 2 games of the year when we needed him most, which to me is a sign of a great player. And he's going to have a great pro career. He's going to have a great life because he's just a wonderful human being and just a team-first guy.
The other side, of course, is your goal. Speaking of guys that played their best when you needed them the most, Logan McNaney, who has just etched himself into the lore of Maryland lacrosse in a way that, he was always going to be a good player. Jesus Christ, this weekend, absolutely insane. How do you possibly describe what he meant, and again, getting you guys over the finish line this weekend?
Yeah, we really needed that defensive effort, and I think Jesse Bernhardt and Carol Kennedy do a great job with our defense, and I loved our game plans for those games because those teams were really good. Princeton's offense, I think, was top 5 in the country, and Cornell just hit its stride at the right time. I mean, they put up 17 against Rutgers,
Yeah,
and they put up a ton against Ohio State. So against 2 teams in our league that we respect a lot, like they scored a lot of goals. So they have great parts. They have really good schemes. And I thought the coaching staff did a really good job of putting our guys in good position, but I think our players tremendous job of executing the game plan. And a lot of it was straight up fundamentals, discipline, being on the same page, forcing guys where they needed to go, communicating well, and being on point. And a lot of the shots that Logan got, I think he'd be the first to tell you, there were guys getting the hands. Guys were moving. They weren't setting their feet. And that took just a little bit off, which makes Logan's job a whole lot easier. And I'm confident he'd say that. So, again, a collective effort there where you kind of need all of those things to come together to get that many saves. Because if guys are getting good looks and step downs, at the Final Four, most guys are going to can those.
And then this image that I saw after the game of Luke, and remembering his emotions a year ago after getting the opportunity and it didn't go for him. But you and I talked about the season he's had and how unbelievable he's been, and then for him to just be able to revel in it from one year to the next year. What did it mean to you to see him be able to get the face-off win at the end and celebrate after the emotions that he experienced Memorial Day a year ago?
Right. That's why we do what we do. Teaching guys about resiliency, teaching guys about life, realizing things don't always go your way. It's how you respond. And I kind of look at, what happened in 2016. We lose in the national championship. A lot of people talked about Connor Kelly. He had a shot in overtime and, it didn't finish. And we had a lot of shots on that game, but people always talk about the last one. And Connor was left with that all summer. And then Connor took that and utilized that, and it motivated him to have an incredible year, first-team All-American, Offensive Player of the Year in our conference, Tewaaraton candidate. And through that adversity, he got stronger and better. And you just can't make up the development that Luke made in 1 year to go from 45%, an area of probably not one of our strengths last year, to all of a sudden be a first-team All-American at 66% or so and scoring goals and really dominating the middle of the field for us. That just doesn't happen. That's like something out of a movie. So it's a credit to Luke and what he did and his dedication. And instead of feeling sorry for himself, he really worked hard. The other 3 face-off guys in the hog pen, guys like Gavin Ty and Shea Keithler and Mike Roach were a huge part of that. Carol Kenny, who works with our face-off guys, our wing guys, John Geppert, Owen Probilski, Roman, Higgs, all those guys just collectively did a tremendous job. And it says a lot about Luke, but also those guys, kind of helping him make his job easier.
Coach, I know I'm going to have to let you go because you're so busy today, but if I could just – I know the last one was so important because, you had to end the drought, this thing you had to inherit when you took this job. What does this one mean to you now? Like, obviously it's undefeated. It's the conversation about you guys maybe being the greatest team ever. But what does this one mean to you 5 years removed from getting your first one?
I think for us, the narrative of, we couldn't win it and then we get one. And then, a few years go by and then people start saying, all right, well, was just that a fluke, right? And so I think to kind of counter that narrative, not that it's anything that we're going to do what we do, be the best is be the best. So we have our marching orders, we have our core values. But I think getting that one, and then because of the way things went last year, to stare that down and literally try to get back and get over the hump, and have so many guys come back and decide to take a chance on us for some of the fifth-year guys, guys like Probilski, guys like Kahn and Donville, and then the guys like Ray Hill, decided to come back for another year, not knowing if it was going to work out. but they took the chance. They made some sacrifices. They put their life on hold. So to see those guys celebrating after seeing the tears of pain last year, to see the tears of joy, it's so awesome to see. I don't look at things like revenge or redemption. To me, it's just, man, seeing those guys go, you know what, let's try it again. We're going to risk breaking our heart, but life is all about like taking those risks so that your life is better. And if you don't take those risks, you're never really going to know what you could have done. And that's a tough way to go through life.
There's no doubt, man, but I could feel all those emotions, man. It was a special scene. Coach John Tillman, thank you for taking a couple of minutes this morning, and seriously, heartfelt congratulations. It was a really amazing thing to watch your team all season long, my friend.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the support.
Coach John Tillman, national champion again at the University of Maryland after the Terps finish off Cornell 9-7 yesterday. Again, got a little hairy there in the fourth quarter, and we can talk about whether or not maybe they got to think about, this was unfortunate because of this insane weather delay they had on Saturday, which forced the semifinal all the way to Saturday night, frankly, and then that's an awfully quick turnaround to play the two most important games of the year. But they got it done. That's all that matters. Ultimately, they got it done. I'm writing today about the debate about whether Maryland is and we'll talk to Patrick Stevens about it here in a bit. I don't know. I mean, who knows? And I'm not trying to be dismissive or evade the question. A lot of people bring up the 1990 Syracuse team because it was Paul and Gary Gate and Tom Marichek, and they rolled through the NCAA tournament. Now, ironically, that championship was actually vacated a couple years later, but that doesn't really matter in this mythical debate about who the greatest team of all time is. I have no idea, but I also know it's kind of irrelevant. This Maryland team is one of the greatest college lacrosse teams of all time. Whether they are the single greatest or not, who gives a flying F?
You win a national championship, you don't necessarily care if you're
went
considered by the media as the greatest.
You went undefeated. You won every game you played.
Right.
You didn't play a 1-goal game all season.
Yeah.
The only 2-goal games you played a 2-goal game against Notre Dame earlier in the year, and you played a 2-goal game on Championship Monday after you had like a 30-hour turnaround. Who cares? Who cares?
It's irrelevant, like you said.
I'll let Patrick Stevens say whatever he wants to say about it because I get it. It's a topic, and I'm not trying to be dismissive of it. But I thought Patrick and what he wrote for USA Lacrosse Magazine, and it inspired what I'm writing today at PressBoxOnline.com, those words, all that mattered. Who gives a flying F? If they had won by 10 goals yesterday, would that have ended the debate? Would everybody in the world have said, well, that's the greatest college lacrosse team of all time? No.
Well, it's all subjective anyway.
Yes.
I mean, you're never going to have a right answer. No one's ever going to come out and say, well, definitively.
It's impossible. It literally cannot be answered. There's no way to know.
It's a dead-end question. But it is, I guess it's one worth pondering. If you're someone like Patrick Stevens and you know that much about it, he knows certainly a lot more than I do.
Here's my guess, and he knows more than I do. But my guess is he's going to sort of say something similar where, I don't know. It's whatever. They're undefeated national champions. They were a remarkable team to watch all season long. Your dad's a big Maryland guy. You were saying that, Zach?
Yeah, he gets very invested in a lot of the playoff runs that the teams make, like football. Well, it's not too often that football makes the playoff run, but when they do, or basketball, and he definitely was invested in this lacrosse tournament. So yeah, he definitely pays attention. I think that's true with a lot of people. I think there are a lot of people who will turn on the TV because their local team is having a lot of success.
It's so funny. I hate gatekeeping in all aspects of life. I hate gatekeeping.
Mm-hmm.
It's dreadful. It's something that people do because they think they're a better whatever.
A better fan.
Right. We see this all the time. If you ever say anything critical about the Orioles, there's someone there to say to you, like,
you're not a real fan. You hate Elias.
Exactly right. All that nonsense. And sometimes it's just dumb Twitter banter, and sometimes people really like. I remember when the Orioles were miserable for so long. There were people that would literally say to me, like, when I would be critical of the Orioles being terrible, I would hear this from people. Well, don't show up when they're good again. Don't think you're going to be welcome when they're good again.
Yeah.
I was still going to all of the games. I still
right.
I was still a fan.
Sure.
It's in my blood. I'm from here. This is my home. I was frustrated that they got their asses kicked for 14 years.
Yeah.
I had every right to be frustrated about it. And it's a similar feeling that I see like yesterday when people who aren't lacrosse fans but are Maryland fans, love Maryland basketball, love Maryland football to whatever extent they do, don't pay attention to lacrosse all year, but suddenly it's what's going on in Maryland's good, so they get. And you'll still see that from some people. You'll still see this gatekeeping. Like this, you don't get to celebrate this. You don't care about. You don't even know about lacrosse.
Right.
Get the F out of here with that.
Right.
Who cares? Maryland means something to you. You went there. Your parents went there. It was the school you rooted for growing up because you're from Maryland.
I was gonna say it's the one you live close by.
Your
to.
tax
it's
money
simple.
goes
Yeah,
there.
Right. Simple as that.
The nonsensical thing where people are like, well, they're closer to D.C. My tax dollars go to the University of Maryland. I don't know if you know, it says Maryland on their sweater. You know why I'm able to root for Maryland and not for the Washington Capitals? Because it says Maryland.
Right.
Because the state flag that I put on everything that I wear is the same state flag that they have.
Right.
So who gives a... Yes, I like lacrosse a lot. I'm a big lacrosse guy. Everybody knows that about me. I love lacrosse. It's a sport I care about passionately. I've watched an awful lot of... I'm more, of course, because I work now at Loyola and at Stevenson, I care more about those teams. Somebody was watching something besides tennis this weekend?
Oh, we had the
unacceptable.
The Masson Orioles game on the TV during.
Unacceptable.
I know. Terrible, right? Terrible.
I
can't watch baseball in this studio.
I totally forgot. By the way, Coco Gauff. It's a remarkable story. She's into the French Open semifinals, which is a big deal. Coco Gauff was a revelation a couple years ago at Wimbledon when she sort of arrived on the scene as a 15-year-old, and then this is all of a sudden the expectations just get wildly out of whack when somebody does something like that, and the thought is immediately they're going to go win Grand Slam championships when that's not what 15-year-olds do. Now a couple years, still very young, 19, Coco Gauff is on to the French Open semifinals, which is a major accomplishment. A big one coming up today. I'm not sure if you're familiar. Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic play in the French Open quarterfinals.
I mean, there are not many tennis names that I'm aware of, but those two I'm very aware
of.
Well,
I'm glad that you're aware.
It's impossible not to be, I think. It's part of
you're aware.
Part of popular culture.
Yeah, I'll be writing about Maryland lacrosse. So I care deeply, but I welcome everybody who does not care at all about lacrosse all year long, but suddenly on Memorial Day weekend says, hey, this is on ESPN or this is on ESPN2, and I'm going to pay attention now, and I'm going to welcome. I celebrate, man. Celebrate. Enjoy it. Even if you have no idea what a rope unit is, even if you have no clue about the terminology of the sport, celebrate it. You're celebrating your school. You're celebrating you remember oh God, I don't even know how old you would have been. So this is a terrifying question to ask.
Let's see.
The game between the Ravens and Steelers in 2008, which featured the Santonio Holmes touchdown that wasn't actually a touchdown, that won the game for him, where they went back, reviewed it. There was absolutely not clear and present evidence that he had scored a touchdown there, but they went ahead and they awarded him a touchdown, and it was nonsense. As the Ravens were in trouble at that point, but then went to Dallas the following week and beat the Cowboys in the final game ever at Texas Stadium. That particular day, the radio station that I was at the time, we had an arrangement with one of the beer companies that I would sit up in what they were. I don't know, maybe they still call it the flight deck.
Oh yeah, Miller Lite Flight Deck.
Well, they don't spend money with us, so we don't give them. We just say one of the beer companies.
One of the beer companies.
Yes,
that
one of the beer
that
companies.
One. Excuse me.
It's okay, pal.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's a lesson. I have to teach this
one
lesson.
One of the big beer companies.
Yes, right? Like, if you want to spend money with us, we're happy to talk about you. Otherwise,
Fair enough.
You're just one of the beer companies. So I would be sitting up there, and then I had to attend this pregame event in the tent that they had outside. And it was lovely, and I was happy to be there, and I got extraordinarily inebriated. And I remember that Maryland's men's soccer team was playing for a national championship that afternoon. So that game was it was a late afternoon game. It was a 4 o'clock or a 4. I don't know. This is 08, so it might have been 4:05. I don't know if they had moved the games to 4:20 yet. But I was in the tent beforehand where they were showing all the 1 o'clock games on the TV screens, and I was the guy walking around to every bartender asking if they could put the Maryland soccer game on.
The only guy in the place
the only
doing
guy
that.
that was asking that question. But and it's not as if I can't pretend as though I had watched every Maryland. I'm not going to tell you that I watched every Maryland lacrosse game this year because, again, I was working most of those Saturdays. But it's okay. It's okay for you to care suddenly if it's your team and your school and it's just not the sport that you care about the most. Maryland baseball is going to host a regional this weekend for the first time ever in school history. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And if you want to go down, despite the fact that you haven't watched Maryland baseball all season long, but you heard that it's the NCAA tournament and you think that's cool, that's great. This gatekeeping thing where like you're not a fan enough is toxic and nonsense.
I
hate it. This you're not a good enough fan. Get the F out of here. Get out of here, man. You want to dunk on someone who's a make-believe fan? You want to dunk on someone who's from Baltimore but claims themselves to be a Duke basketball fan? Dunk on them all you want. But the gatekeeping thing where, like, you're not a good enough fan or how dare you ever – stop it. It's so gross. I mean,
it's a tired argument. And the worst thing is, I will say this: when I see someone who is a Yankee fan, a Laker fan, and a Cowboy fan, I start to ask questions there.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
yes,
like
that's nothing. I have no problem with dunking on.
Yeah, like that's a line I think you've crossed at that point.
It's someone's an Orioles fan,
mm-hmm.
but they're not enough of an Orioles fan.
Right.
They don't watch every game all season. They don't go to it's that. Like, yo, chill out. They're on your team.
Right. And it's not like you're jumping on the bandwagon when it comes to the Baltimore Orioles.
No.
Or even really, frankly, the Baltimore Ravens. Because
if I portrayed I know our friend Jason Lockenfora gets crap for this all the time. If you portray yourself to be a fan of one team and then suddenly another team gets good and you're all of a sudden a fan of that team, like that's something that we can kind of
it's a discussion to have.
Yes, we're going to have that conversation.
Yeah.
That's bandwagon to your point, right? Mm-hmm. If somebody's just not as invested all the time, or again, like with college sports, you just don't care. I'm trying to think of an example of if Maryland's field hockey team played for a national championship, and they played for plenty over the years, I can't pretend as though I'm a big Maryland field hockey guy. But that day, I'm going to be the biggest Maryland field hockey guy ever.
Right.
Because they're playing for a national championship. And it's the school that I care about. And I know a couple people that played field hockey at Maryland. I'm excited for them. I'm happy for them. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to be like, I go to all the games. Like,
biggest fan of Maryland field hockey.
But I'm not going to gatekeep somebody and say, like, you're not allowed to celebrate it. Everybody that didn't watch Maryland lacrosse all season but was tuned in yesterday because it was a national championship game, it was great to have you. I hope some of you enjoyed what you watched and will become bigger lacrosse fans because it's a great sport. It's a lot of fun. But if you don't, that's okay too.
And that's my main argument against gatekeeping. And I see that with people who, especially with the Orioles, because I guess I'm around a lot of those people so often. And I hear, oh, you're not a real fan. You don't want, don't come back when the parade is happening. You're not invited. Whatever. I hear that all the time, and I'm thinking, don't you want people to be fans of the Orioles? Don't you want to see these? You're the ones probably saying 2 months ago that you want to see the stands full, and you missed that.
Right.
And then you're telling people not to come out to the games when they get good. Come on,
toxic crap, man.
That's
it's so.
It's not right. Right?
We somehow think we're better than someone else because of our fan. Being a fan of something is not a personality trait. It's not a quality.
No,
it's a hobby.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's just a hobby.
It's a very passionate one for most people.
And that's cool. I love that. Thankfully, it's the reason why I'm able to have jobs.
Sure.
I wanted to be a passionate. But it's a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an accomplishment. Being a fan is not something to put on your resume.
You walk in there and you're like, well, I'm an Orioles fan, so you should hire me.
I'm the biggest. Why should I have this job? Because I am the biggest Orioles fan. I never miss a game.
Right.
Okay. Well, I don't think you understand. I never, these jokers that miss games, I never miss a game. I know everybody on the Delmarva Shorebirds roster.
Michael Desan is my favorite player.
Okay.
Great.
Why should you have the job? But that's the way we treat it. We treat it like it's some sort of accomplishment.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying don't be a big fan. Be a big fan. And if you're the biggest Maryland lacrosse fan, I'm sure yesterday was particularly special for you. But let it be special for the guy that doesn't watch lacrosse at all, that just happens to know that says Maryland on their shirt, and so you like that.
Well, it's just caring too much about what other people are doing also,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Like
a good point,
you
right?
don't need to have that amount of investment in other people's lives where you're like, man, if you're watching the
Yeah,
Maryland lacrosse
you got a
game,
problem.
shame on you because you haven't watched one all
Right.
year. It's like, why are you so worried about what they're doing, right?
Again, if anything, welcome.
Yeah,
If anything, awesome. Glad to have you.
Another fan, right?
Enjoy. Let's high five afterwards. There are plenty of people that are at the bar yesterday or at an establishment.
Well, I was
that
gonna
don't-
say,
that after the game was over, we're high fiving. That
right?
I during the World Cup in years past, I've got Italian. My family is Italian, and so I would always enjoy watching Italy. But I'm not going to pretend like I can tell you everything about the history of
Right,
Italian
right.
soccer. But I know that I've been at establishments where other guys wanted to give me a high five and say Forza, and that was fun, and that's okay. It's cool. It's a neat moment.
Yeah. Well,
God.
I think you will find that with the vast majority of World Cup viewers that they have no idea who
Right, yeah,
95%
they
of the
just
players
tuned in
are,
for the- yeah, it's a
and they're
great
just
point.
tuned in because it's a cultural thing. It's a huge.
I love tennis. I want you guys to listen to Courts of Thunder, right? More than anything, I'd like for more people to watch, so I have more people to talk about it with. I'd
Yeah.
love for you to just watch today Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic so I can talk about it with somebody. That would make me happy because
I'll watch it for you, Glenn.
Thanks,
I'll
pal.
come
I
back
appreciate it.
tomorrow
We can
and,
talk
and we'll
about
have
it.
There we go.
I do
We'll
like
it.
that. I do like that. Hey, Baltimore Police still looking for a few folks. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police. Make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good. bpdrecruit.org. We'll come back in. We'll put the finishing touches on lacrosse season with our buddy Patrick Stevens. Commander Kristen Dragon Hansen, who's remarkable in her own right. Former Navy women's soccer player. Had quite the hand in Top Gun Maverick. We're going to talk to her about that, too, all on the way. Glenn Clark Radio.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles catcher Adley Rutschman, diving into where his passion for baseball and for catching comes from and how he uses that passion to elevate those around him in the Orioles organization. Also inside, Bo Smolka takes a look at how the Ravens' 2021 draft picks can make progress in year two, and Glenn Clark offers a very unique tribute to former rival Mike Krzyzewski that all Maryland fans can appreciate. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Answering Baltimore's calls for help, running in when others run away, working together toward one shared vision for a thriving city. That's your Baltimore Police. But the department needs more good people, people like you. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook Assistant GM Leon Twyman and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and offer you a few winners. And every other Thursday at 11:40, tune in for Weekend at Bookies as Andrew Stecca and Alloy Sports' Brad Kronthal help make you some money for the weekend. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday and Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
Baseball is back, and so is the spring seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill. Start with the opener, flash fried pork belly with our popular Korean No. 2 sauce, and take a bite out of the Crunch Burger, topped with home run sauce, white American cheese, and house-made chips. It also features irresistible options like a baseball cut sirloin with blue cheese, grilled shrimp with garlic butter, and a strawberry salmon salad. And then there's the closer, the Cracker Jack sundae with a waffle, ice cream, and Cracker Jack. Jacks. This menu will be gone at your neighborhood Glory Days Grill. GloryDaysGrill.com to find out more. Great food, good sports.
Don't forget that full episodes of the show are available for free on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. But warning, you get what you pay for. You're listening to Glenn Clark Radio.
All right, hour number 1 of today's program also brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today. Game 7 last night in the NHL. The New York Rangers defeated Carolina, so the conference finals are set in the NHL. It'll be the Rangers and the Lightning in the East, and then getting underway tonight, the Avalanche and the Oilers in the West. So looking forward to the conference finals on the ice. Let's put the finishing touches on college lacrosse season, and it's always a little emotional. Our final chat with Patrick Stevens for the year, a buddy from Washington Post, the USA Lacrosse Magazine. Back after a trip up to scenic, beautiful Hartford. Thank you for taking a couple minutes for us, as always, pal.
Sure thing. I'm just glad to be awake at this point.
I was gonna say. I don't know what to say about it. The debate now becomes, is Maryland the greatest lacrosse team of all time? I have no idea what the answer to that question is. In fact, what you wrote for USA Lacrosse Magazine kind of inspired what I wrote this week at Pressbox, which is, it doesn't matter. Who cares? They're an undefeated team that won the national championship. They're certainly in the conversation. I'm pretty sure that's all that really matters.
Yeah, and I think in lacrosse in particular, maybe more so than maybe more conventional sports, it's almost sort of similar to like a tennis or a golf, where you have not just rules changes that have occurred, but equipment changes that have occurred over the years that have dramatically changed things. And so to try to compare even the teams from the Navy teams of the 60s and Cornell from the early 70s, and even into the mid-70s, those Cornell teams and some of the teams in the 80s, just with the advancements in the sticks and what have you, is really, really difficult. And then you start throwing in different rules changes like, adjustments in the face-off over the years. When you look at, the number of poles that have been permitted on the field at a given time, an era of maybe greater specialization and substitutions rather than the traditional, your midfielders just run themselves into the ground. The shot clock more recently. There's a number of these things. And so I feel like the window that you can really compare this Maryland team to is not really all that large and certainly does not cover all time. So if we're sitting here saying what are the teams in somewhat recent history that they're stacking up with, it's 1990 Syracuse and 2006 Virginia. There's a handful of other undefeateds in there, 91 Carolina, 97 Princeton, the middle team of that 3-year dynasty, 05 Hopkins, the back-to-back Duke teams from a decade or so ago. So there's certainly no shame in being an undefeated champion, right? Like that you're not, if you're somebody on that team, you're going to say we beat everybody that came in front of us. And at the end of the day, that's a pretty impressive accomplishment. I'm not willing to go so far as to say it's the best team ever. I think frankly the best team ever wins its national title game by more than 2 goals.
Okay.
I think the best team ever probably has a scenario where they're facing a more stacked situation, like even Virginia of 06. Now, granted, that team didn't have to deal with Duke that year.
Right. Right.
But the talent diffusion is greater, and so I think there's more good teams, but fewer great teams that are out there in any given year. And so that makes it more difficult than, say, comparing to a 1990 Syracuse when the talent was really, really concentrated in even far fewer schools than it was in 06, let alone today.
It's fair. I think all those things are fair. I'll still come back to, but doesn't matter, right?
Does it matter? Not for these guys. It doesn't.
Yeah, right.
It shouldn't.
Right. Who cares? They won the national championship. They went undefeated. They were.
I think some of this comes down to the temptation for people to say the best team ever, and what they really mean is the best team ever since I started paying attention.
Right. That I can remember. Exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for some of those folks, that's the best team ever since 2019. For some of those people, that's the best team ever in 15 years.
Right.
And for people that have been around a little bit longer, you've seen other good teams come along that had definite strengths. But I feel like that, and that's not just specific to this instance. I think that when you see the best team ever, greatest of all time sort of thing, there's definitely a sort of lack of institutional memory that sort of helps perpetuate those conversations more so than they probably should.
Is there any argument to be made about considering whether or not it's going to rain again at some point in the future on one of these Memorial Day weekends? It's going to happen, and it created a really awkward scenario of a team playing Saturday night and turning around and having to play the most important game of the season, some 32 hours later. And it's not an excuse making. They won the game, right? Like, who cares? But does the NCAA have to think about it at all, or is this just, this is the way it's going to be, you know what you're getting into, you're just going to have to deal with it because, whether it's fair be damned, television is what matters?
Well, you've hit the nail on the head about the TV stuff. And TV is going to dictate a lot of these things. I still believe that if we were to start over and to try to set up what a more perfect approach to this tournament would be, one of the things you would do is you would keep the conference tournaments where they're at in the first weekend of May. Then you would have sort of a non-conference rivalry weekend where everybody gets to get up and play a game that really gets the juices going. And a lot of those games that have been shunted off to February instead get played there. And so that would be a Hopkins Loyola, for example. That would be a Maryland Navy if those schools can ever agree to playing again. That sort of thing. And then you have the first round the next week. And then on Memorial Day weekend at two sites, you play quarters and semis. One goes Thursday, Saturday. The other goes Friday, Sunday. Or you can go Friday, Sunday, Saturday, Monday if you wanted to. And then you have a week-long build-up to the title game the next week. And you can play it whenever the heck you want at that stage. You can play it in prime time. You can play it in the afternoon. That also, by the way, opens up a certain stadium about 30 miles to the south of Baltimore as a potential
That's not hosting graduation any longer now.
It's not hosting graduation that week.
Yeah, that might be an ideal location for this event.
So that's sort of, to me, like the ideal scenario. The arguments are going to be, well, you have to spend more money housing guys for an extra week. It's only two teams. Come on. The tournament still lasts 3 weeks. The tournament still covers the same number of sites, basically turning those quarterfinal sites into mini Final Fours. And so there's obviously other variables in play. What do you do with the D2 and D3 finals? Do you want to try to create on an annual basis this sort of men's and women's championship festival, which is basically what's going to happen in Foxborough in 25 and 26, which is an idea that has a great deal of merit. And so there's all those various things. But that to me is certainly one way of handling it and sort of decoupling the semis and the title game. I mean, just because it's been on Memorial Day since 1986 doesn't mean it's always been on Memorial Day or that it always has to be on Memorial Day.
That's a fair point.
And I think, too, you do have to ask the question of, and this is something that, I've had conversations with some people this weekend, is what ultimately are you trying to do attendance-wise in terms of how big a crowd do you want? Is trying to right-size the event, and they got a greater capacity percentage at the house that Edsel built this weekend than they would have in a pro stadium. But my guess is that rather than drawing 22,000 in Philly or Foxborough or, heaven forbid, Baltimore actually wanted to bid again, that those numbers would be closer to 30 or 35. There's more stuff to do, all the variety of things you'd want to argue, more hotel rooms, all this, that, and the other. Is it a better experience? I don't know the answer to that. I think that really comes down to, talking to players that have been through it. And there's also the question of how much money the NCAA can make as well, because as long as there's pro football teams that are willing to spend a fair bit in their bid, then the NCAA is going to keep going back there because the money's good. So there's all sorts of variables to that. But back to your point about the weather, yeah, it's not ideal. Maybe the answer is to play Friday and then Sunday, or play Monday nights, play Saturday afternoon and Monday night, and sort of build in that extra time.
Yeah, just what jumps out to me about your theory is it prioritizes trying to make sure you have the best championship game you can, right? That like the focus is let's have these teams be as rested and prepared as possible for the championship game to be the focus and the priority of how we build around the sport.
And yet yesterday, that was a more typical title game than some of the ones that we
like the one we got the year before, where it was a thrill.
Yeah, the one last year was fantastic. The one in 2016, the Carolina-Maryland game, was fantastic. But you go back and you start looking at a fair number of these title games. There's a lot of low-scoring games.
Yep.
There's Duke and Notre Dame in 2010, 6-5, 9-7 the next year, 9-3 the next year. There was the 10-5 Denver-Maryland game. And I know that you've got the shot clock issues and all that. But we've seen 13-11 in the title game. I think Yale's might have been 13-8 or something like that.
Yeah.
They tend to be lower scoring. Guys tend to be tired after having played less than 48 hours earlier in a sport that has basically gotten to the point where it's so regimented that you rarely see, outside of a conference tournament of the Final Four, 2 games in 3 days. So I think ultimately that's always been one of those, like, that Monday is essentially just a survival. And that fourth quarter yesterday is a perfect example of that.
Question.
Like Maryland had nothing in the tank at the end. And John Tillman said afterwards he doesn't know what would have happened if they had to play another quarter. I mean, I have a pretty good idea. It wouldn't have been very good.
It didn't look good. There's no doubt about it. It didn't look good. But irrelevant. They're the national champions. That's all that matters. All right. Look. I'm not trying to get you because, my God, the 100 guys could transfer between now and then. But I'll say it this way: even losing as many players as Maryland is slated to lose, you and I have talked about this. I got to imagine there's good reason to think that a John Tillman coach Maryland team will be in the mix again come next May.
In the mix, yes. I certainly would not view them as, at this stage, as much of a top 1 or 2 obvious team as they were heading into this season.
Right.
Like I feel like the general consensus in the sport coming into the spring was, okay, Duke, Maryland, Virginia, pick your order for those 3, and then who else is going to be there. And Duke obviously struggled a bit and had some stumbles along the way. But the other 2 teams, people were pretty much spot on about, regardless of how the seeding worked out. Like, I think most people agreed that Virginia was one of the top 3, 4, 5 teams in the country. I think it's going to be a deeper group, in part because we have some expectation of the Ivy League teams now.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we're all going to overrate some of these Ivy League teams. And some of them are going to have a little bit of a reset for a variety of reasons. I think those teams probably aren't going to be quite as motivated, because how could they possibly be after having missed, a season and a half basically and gone almost 2 years between games? How are they all going to be that fired up to play again? It's going to be difficult. But there's going to be a fair number of good teams in that league, whether it's Cornell or Penn or Yale or Princeton. And I think Harvard will be better. I think Georgetown's going to be better and angry after last year. I think those ACC teams will have something to prove, especially Notre Dame, but Duke as well. And obviously Virginia's not going anywhere. You've got Maryland. I think we could probably come up with a list right now of about 10 to 12 teams that might have a viable shot at winning a national title.
Sure. Wow.
And I think it'll be one of the, a very, very early look, but I feel like it's going to be one of the more wide open seasons that we've seen in a long while.
Very interesting. All right, one final time this year, can Patrick Stevens name the MLB teams that this particular player has played for? I got a pitcher and an outfielder. We'll begin with the pitcher, a 2-time All-Star, twice finished in the top 10 of Cy Young voting, 4 teams for Al Leiter.
Yeah, we did that one last week.
We did?
So it was the Yankees. It was the Yankees, Blue Jays.
Oh, you know what? I apologize. I did have that. I'm sorry, Patrick. I screwed that up.
Well, at least I went 4 for 4 again.
Yeah, you did.
I didn't get worse.
You did it. You did. You know what? I'm normally very good about this too, which is the shame. I'm normally very good about updating the list so that I don't have that happen. But 100% right. All right, strike that. I'll go to this one. We didn't do Hunter Pence last week.
No, we did not do Hunter Pence.
4 teams for Hunter Pence, a 4-time All-Star.
4-time All-Star. It's pretty amazing.
I did not realize that. Yes.
So he was definitely an Astro, and he was definitely a Philly, and he was definitely a Giant.
Yes,
right?
and there was a 1-year stint in 2019 where he was actually quite good.
Was Hunter Pence a Dodger at the very
Oh
end?
no, it wasn't the Dodgers. No, it was the Texas Rangers.
Okay.
Was the other team for Hunter Pence. And we'll wrap up. I will go to a pitcher to wrap up the year. How about the 4 teams for Roy Oswalt?
Roy Oswalt was Roy Oswalt was an Astro and a Philly for sure.
For sure.
I feel like he might have been a Ranger.
He was
right?
indeed a Ranger, yes.
And was he a Rocky?
Oh, well done, sir. Well damn done. 4 for 4 on Roy Oswalt. Hey, my friend, always appreciate you. I know you were tired this morning after drive back from Hartford. Thanks for doing this. We will, of course, be in touch as news warrants over the coming months and look forward to chatting with you again as we get towards next basketball season. Thank you, as always, for being a part of what we do, man.
Thanks so much, Glenn. You have a good one.
That's Patrick Stevens. USA Lacrosse Magazine, Washington Post, at Discourse. D1S Course on Twitter is how you follow him. Appreciate him taking the time for us here on a Tuesday morning after legitimately driving all the way back from Hartford, Connecticut, following the championship game yesterday. Appreciate him doing that. We're not going to take a break here. We can go ahead and call Commander Hansen. Did get a... hang on a second. From Joe. Joe says, Glenn, appreciate what you're saying about gatekeeping. I have to admit, I am not the biggest lacrosse fan on the face of the planet, but yesterday I was all in, was celebrating, was jumping up and down. Everyone is able to enjoy and appreciate these games no matter what your connection is. If you're a Maryland fan, you're a Maryland fan. Yeah, I mean, I hope if you were watching the Maryland women on Friday, heartbreak as Boston College came back, rallied, won that game. It was a great weekend. My God, I hope you all were able to get out to Hopkins at some point during the course of the weekend. It was an unbelievable weekend of lacrosse at Hopkins. 3 games, all 1-goal games. Semifinals and championship game. North Carolina defeating Boston College to win the Women's Lacrosse National Championship. Incredible weekend of lacrosse. Great atmospheres at Homewood Field. What a weekend it was to be at Hopkins. But yeah, whatever, whether you're a casual fan and a hardcore fan, whatever it is, I hope you enjoyed and celebrated and, felt heartbreak on Friday if you're watching the women's game. The gatekeeping thing, it just drives me nuts. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Everybody enjoy. Everybody enjoy. From Chris. Chris says, Glenn, you were talking about the Orioles needing a pitcher for tonight. It's not Chris. It's not Grayson Rodriguez. Just pitched on It's not as if someone couldn't pitch on short rest, but Friday is an awful quick turnaround. It's an awful quick turnaround. It ain't going to be Grayson Rodriguez. I don't know when Grayson Rodriguez is going to pitch here. We can get into the debate about what more does Grayson Rodriguez have to prove? Why isn't he already? Shouldn't he have graduated to the major league level? We can do that all you want. I will come back to the innings thing and that they need to ramp him up during the course of the year, and whatever the struggles might be between 100 and 200 innings, they'd like him to push through that for the first time at the minor league level. Where is he at innings-wise now for the season?
It's still not too many. I mean, most of his outings have been 5 or 6. And Glenn, just to update you, Commander Hansen's phone has been busy.
That's fine. That's fine.
We'll give her back.
I figured. I didn't think you. I figured that.
Give her a call back.
We'll figure it out. We will.
But yeah, I mean, with most of his outings being 5 or 6 innings at the most, he has gone one outing over, I believe, into 7.
He is. He's up to 50 innings.
50 innings. So that, yeah, right. I mean, that's still a managed workload and one that's not been incredibly high for Grayson Rodriguez.
So we're talking about another 2 months worth of starts in order to try to even get him to 100. Now, somebody would say, are you really waiting 2 more months if Grayson Rodriguez continues to dominate to get him to the major leagues? That's insane. I don't have a perfect answer to this question. It's, again, Glenn Clark Radio. I don't have the answers, right? I don't have a perfect answer with Grayson Rodriguez.
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be the rush that it was, no pun intended, Rutsch. I don't think that you need to rush him the way that it was starting to feel like you needed to rush Adley Rutschman because of Adley Rutschman's age.
Right, he's 22. Grayson is 22. I mean,
Yes.
that's a significant difference from being 24 and being
Correct.
Adley Rutschman and being as polished as a guy like Adley Rutschman was, who had success at every single level, and Grayson's done the same thing.
But he never pitched in college, right?
Right.
And I think that's a
Right.
significant difference.
It
That
is.
Adley Rutschman had played in a College World Series.
Right. I mean, it's one of the highest levels of baseball there is until the professional league.
Correct.
So I'm kind of in the boat with you where I don't think there needs to be any big rush. But if you do have a guy dominating and you're just saying, okay, at this point we're just keeping him down because he's 22 years old, that's not the good argument either.
That wouldn't be the answer. That, you know,
Right.
that I wouldn't be okay with that.
I agree.
It would have to be something more along the lines of, hey, the goal was we wanted him to pitch the first, get to that 100 inning or whatever. What did he pitch last year? Because I know it wasn't.
I believe it was probably pretty close to 100, maybe a little bit
I think it
more.
was a little. I thought it was a little bit less than 100 last
Okay,
year. I thought it
you
was.
could be right. I know DL Hall has struggled to pitch 100 innings for a very long time. I'm not sure he's pitched 100 innings in his minor league career. But Grayson, I believe, has gotten close or eclipsed it.
I apologize. For some reason, MILB.com is running slowly for me.
Got to use Baseball Reference.
I know. Well, either one of them works, but it's just I think it might be an internet situation that I'm dealing with. I know there was one that was 100, and the other one was pretty close to 100. I don't remember which year was
So
which.
Grayson, he has pitched 103 innings last year.
That was last year.
Right, so barely
Yeah.
over 100. Then
So
94 in
if
2019.
the plan going into this year was let's let him get to that number and then make 3 more starts after that to see how he handles the larger number and to let him do
Right.
that in the minor leagues instead of the major leagues, if that was the plan coming into the year, I'm okay with saying we're not going to divert from that plan just because he's dominating at the AAA level.
Right. You're looking at 120 innings roughly.
We talked to Steve Johnson about this last week. Like that innings jump is significant. And if you're penciling Grayson Rodriguez into your starting rotation next year, which I think most of us are.
Yeah.
I think the majority of us are assuming that Grayson Rodriguez is going to be a starting pitcher. It's quite the jump to go from 100 to expecting someone to pitch, 200-plus innings a year from now if we're penciling him into the starting rotation for the entirety of the season. So, I mean, if you want to go ahead and try one more time, you can. If not, we'll take a break here in a minute. We'll try again after that. I'm okay with saying, hey, that's something we're thinking about, and not knowing, again, I don't know what the perfect plan is for how you jump from one to the next. I don't have that answer for what the perfect way is to go about going from 100 innings to wanting someone to be a and it's probably a stretch to think that next year he's definitely a 200-inning pitcher. It might be that he's a starting pitcher at the beginning of the year who's likely to get shut down again, or for them to be thinking about the innings number. But I'd be okay with saying, hey, we want to see how he responds to that at the minor league level. We want to see, let's let him get to 120 innings.
Yeah.
And if he's still crushing it at that point, then let him come up and make some major league starts at the end of the year and get him ready for next year and being a major league pitcher. I don't know. I'm spitballing. If their plan was always, hey, as soon as he overwhelms AAA pitching, then he can be a major league pitcher, well then yeah, they've got your answer. He's overwhelming AAA hitting.
I mean, he's striking out 14 players per 9.
It's insane.
The numbers are frankly unprecedented for this kind of guy, 22 years old, and what he's done. I mean, his ERA is 2.32, his WHIP is .894. I mean, these are incredible numbers. But again, like you keep saying, there's no real reason to say, okay, we need him here now.
The idea that he has to be here,
he doesn't have to be here.
It's at some point we know when a player has to be here.
Yeah.
Adley Rutschman had to be here.
Yeah.
There was nothing else that you needed to see Adley Rutschman do at the minor league level when he was approaching 25 years old.
Right. What I'm worried about here is that Orioles fans are going to come up with a date that they think Grayson Rodriguez is going to make his debut, similar to what they did with Rutschman, and then attack the Orioles and berate the Orioles for not bringing him up on the date the Orioles fans created.
But again, there's a different argument here. It made no sense that Adley Rutschman wasn't here then.
That is true.
There was no, as I said at the time, there was no reason that he had to catch a certain number of days a week at AAA.
But there are probably a lot of fans who believe that there's no reason Grayson shouldn't be here.
But
in the same way, you know.
Then it's the people that know a little bit better. It's our job to create a difference. I could not make a justification for what the argument that Adley Rutschman needed to catch 3 consecutive days or needed to catch 5 days out of 7 or something like that. Why? Why can't Adley Rutschman DH a little bit more at the major league level? Why did that have to happen at Norfolk? If it's about working him back to being an everyday catcher, why can't he do that in the major leagues? Like I still don't understand what the answer to that is. Who is he blocking? If it means Tyler Nevin isn't getting an at bat, we'll live.
Absolutely, yeah.
No offense to Tyler Nevin, nice guy, might be a good baseball player.
Not Adley Rutschman.
But not somebody you needed to make sure, hey, we've got to make sure we get Tyler Nevin in the lineup. And Adley Rutschman having the DH a little bit more would keep Tyler Nevin out of the lineup. Okay. So be it. We have to acknowledge that it's different with Grayson Rodriguez. This is still part of the development plan with Grayson Rodriguez. And I'm willing to let that play out because, as we keep saying, as much fun or as much as we can say the Orioles are more competitive or better than we expected them to be, this is still not the difference in winning or losing. Grayson Rodriguez's arrival is not to be the difference in them getting into the playoffs this season. And again, I get it. Miracles can happen, blah, blah, blah. I understand that. But we have to be realistic about it. If the Orioles were if the Orioles were a team that was in the throes of a playoff race, rip up, do whatever you need to do in order to try to win baseball games. Because they're not, make the best decision in terms of development.
Right.
And I don't know what the answer to that is. But I do know the innings thing is a factor in that when it comes to Grayson Rodriguez.
I'll say this, too. I mean, I think people forget how big the gap is between AAA and the major leagues. And it's Paul and I have talked about endlessly on our show that there was an article that came out last year that basically stated that the gap is only growing wider there. And that it's only getting to be a bigger divide, and the guys who are coming up are struggling at a higher rate than they were previously. And I think that's another thing to keep in mind here. I'm not saying Grayson Rodriguez is going to come up and struggle, but if the Orioles feel like, man, we're kind of throwing him into a bad situation, we've got some tough teams to play, we don't want him throwing this many innings, we don't want him throwing, we don't want to have him have 35, 40 pitch innings, that would kind of also hinder the amount of innings he's allowed to throw during the year. Here's another arm care situation that the Orioles are going to have to deal with. And maybe they just don't feel like they want to throw him to the fire at the moment. It's another argument that we haven't even touched on, really.
The throwing to the fire thing, it doesn't impact me.
No? Okay.
If you're going to be mentally warped by getting roughed up, and that's going to ruin you, then you're probably not the guy we think you are.
Not a real right. Okay,
right?
That's fair. I don't think Grayson Rodriguez is that.
And
guy.
I have no reason to think that's the case either.
Yeah.
What I would say more is, I'm not going to make the decision. I know I brought up the fact that, hey, the Red Sox bats were hot. Why would you throw? But it's more the decision will be about a larger developmental plan than it is about who's on your schedule. Yeah. Right? I'm not making a plan based on, well, we need to have it be against the Royals, right? Have him start against whoever he's going to start against, but have it be when you've checked off all the boxes in what you wanted to do with him as part of the developmental plan. And again, prioritizing him being in the rotation next season. What is the best thing for Grayson Rodriguez this year to be ready to go, to be a starting pitcher, first time through the order, through the rotation, that is, for the Baltimore Orioles in 2023?
Right.
And I will defer to them and their knowledge of what it is they think is best for getting someone lined up to be a starting pitcher next season in the major league level.
Right.
Because that's the priority. This year, it does not matter to me if Grayson Rodriguez starts every fifth day in Baltimore. I get it. Those of you that and us that, and by the way, I watched a lot of baseball this weekend. I watched the entirety. I mean, obviously, last night was a lot of fun. There was a reason to want to watch the entirety of last night's game. I get that you get sick of watching certain guys go out and pitch at, and you don't really want. Well, I don't really want to see Spencer Watkins go back out and pitch, and I don't want to watch Matt Harvey pitch when he comes off his suspension. I hear you, but you're conflating priorities.
Yeah.
Because you're watching, you want it to be more entertaining. You want it to be better. Versus, does that really make a difference?
No, in the long run, it doesn't. It doesn't. Just because Matt Harvey's on the mound doesn't mean you're throwing off your rebuild plan or anything like that. I do think, however, that you're above, and I said this when they signed Matt Harvey again for the second time, that I think you're above that kind of pitcher at this point in the rebuild, where I don't know if Matt Harvey's good enough to say automatically that he locks down a rotation spot, if that makes sense. I don't know if he's shown. I mean, he had a 6 ERA last year or something like that.
Where he wasn't good.
The numbers were frankly not.
Although that's unfair. I say he wasn't good. He was good in doses.
He was good in times. I mean, he was through May. He was perfectly fine, and then he had a stretch at the tail end of the season.
I don't think Matt Harvey can actually help you in any way other than being a guy that can go out every fifth day and make a start for you. Whose results are irrelevant.
If your goal is to get a guy who can throw 4, 5, 6 every 5 days, then I think that's probably what he can give you. But I don't think he's going to give you a quality start every 5 days or anything close to that.
Or even every third start. But that's not the point. Again, this year, I get we allow ourselves, because this is more fun than maybe we thought it was going to be. To stop seeing the forest through the trees. This year is not the story. I know we want it to be the story because Adley Rutschman got here, and so it feels like things matter more. But this year is not the story. I don't know that next year is the story, but next year is the first time we could think that maybe it could be.
Mm-hmm.
So prioritize next year with Grayson Rodriguez, and whatever you got to do this year. Whatever that is that you do the rest of the way with Grayson Rodriguez, for him to be in a place to be in the starting rotation and to be a guy who's ready to pitch at the major league level and go 6 innings every start, you know what I mean.
For the most part.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I want this year to be, is doing whatever it takes to get Grayson Rodriguez ready for 2023.
No, I like that, yeah.
2022 Grayson Rodriguez is largely irrelevant to me. He's going to be here. I'm certain of that. And maybe it's next week.
Could be.
Maybe it really is that they've said, look, he's just so overwhelming, we've got nothing left to see. And if that's the plan, that's the plan. But whatever the plan is, I'm not altering just because he's pitching so well. Because the big picture, what matters, is Grayson Rodriguez next year. All right, I'm hoping we'll catch up with Commander Hansen. We will see. If not, I got a few other things to touch on. And still to come this morning, Simply the Bets. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. All right, when we come back in, we'll get into some of that. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
The biggest pro wrestling stars today and all time all have one thing in common. You've heard them on Jobbing Out.
Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks.
Thanks for having us, man. Appreciate it.
The great Kurt Angle.
Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Matt Riddle.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man.
The champ, Drew McIntyre.
Oh, thank you for having me.
The great Ron Simmons.
Keith Lee.
Appreciate you guys having me, man.
Bill Goldberg.
My pleasure.
Charlotte.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mick Foley is with us.
This is the greatest name for a wrestling show I've ever heard.
MJF.
I'm glad you're happy I'm on this show because I'm freaking miserable.
Le
champion.
Chris Jericho.
Le champion.
AJ, Aaron, Brandon, and Glenn are talking pro wrestling every week on Jobbing Out. Find it at PressBoxOnline.com/radio, iTunes, and SoundCloud.
Answering Baltimore's calls for help, running in when others run away, working together toward one shared vision for a thriving city. That's your Baltimore Police. But the department needs more good people, people like you. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn, over at 4100 North Point Boulevard.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles catcher Adley Rutschman, diving into where his passion for baseball and for catching comes from and how he uses that passion to elevate those around him in the Orioles organization. Also inside, Bo Smolka takes a look at how the Ravens' 2021 draft picks can make progress in year 2, and Glenn Clark offers a very unique tribute to former rival Mike Krzyzewski that all Maryland fans can appreciate. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
To follow the show on Instagram, it's just Glenn Clark Radio. And to follow the show on OnlyFans, wait, I don't think you're supposed to know about that one. Any hoodle, take it away, boys.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue on a Tuesday edition of the program. It has been a weird morning around these parts. This is what happens coming off a holiday weekend. And it's about 1 billion degrees outside. I blame both the heat and the holiday. That's what I blame. Heat, holiday. It is insane how hot it is. And what happens when you're dealing with a holiday weekend is that things just sort of get a bit out of whack. But we are going to chat with Commander Kristen Hansen here in a couple minutes, and I'm excited about that.
She's, I don't know why. Maybe it's a studio phone issue. I'm not sure, but she didn't answer there. So hopefully,
I don't know.
We'll get this figured out.
I don't know. You can also text. If for some reason it doesn't work again, say, hey, could you give us a call on this number, and we'll give you that.
Okay,
yeah.
Sounds good. Fun.
Hey, man, this is. We are where we are. There's nothing we can.
No worries.
There's nothing we can
worries.
do about
No
it.
worries.
There's nothing we can do about it at all. I got the chance to talk about the Jock Peterson, Tommy Pham story on the radio on Sunday.
Yes,
it is my absolute favorite story of all time. What is? Are you a fantasy football player?
I mean, I play. I'm not good at it.
Are you not in like a league?
Oh, I'm in leagues. I'm in multiple.
Okay. Have you had an all-time greatest controversy within your fantasy football league?
I have not had one like this where I punch someone in the face over.
I'm not saying, but I'm not suggesting that this always leads to punches in the face.
Yeah, I mean,
but has there been something that has created great strife, great controversy within your fantasy football league?
You know, a few years ago, there was one of my friends, who's one of my closest friends. We were in a league where his team was very successful and mine was very unsuccessful. And it was a league among, I think it was about 8 of us, some people I went to high school with in this league. And he was about to go to the playoffs, and I was about to go basically nowhere because my team was terrible.
Okay.
And I had some good players. Like it was probably some mismanagement on my end. And we decided that it would be a good idea for me to basically just send him all of my good players for free to try to win him this league.
Oh, dude!
And we did
out
that.
of the league.
And then we did that.
No, how old were you?
Oh, this was probably we were probably 16,
okay,
17.
Yeah, I mean, my God.
And we decided that it would be a good idea, and he ended up winning the entire league.
You're out of the league. Dude. You're out of the league. You're never allowed in the league again.
People were very, very upset about that.
There would be no controversy. You would just be kicked out of the league.
I think we played the next year, actually.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was maybe not the smartest decision in hindsight.
I guess because.
But he won the league. Therefore, he got the money. You know, it worked out well for him. I didn't get anything out of it. I guess satisfaction that I helped him out.
Screwing over everyone else in your league is what you got out of it.
Right.
And you should be executed.
I feel terrible.
You should. It's gross.
7
God,
years.
I'm mad, and I don't care, and I'm mad. God damn.
Glenn, we played in a press box league.
Yeah, but there was
correct?
no money involved.
There was no money.
So
involved. I did not do well. I started off
controversy.
I started off like 6-0.
Yeah.
And then it just went downhill from there. I think you beat me a few
did I?
times, and yeah,
That's nice.
It was.
If you're, and I mean, I say this to Ken every year. I'm like, I love the fact that we do this, but I don't care about anything that happens in this league.
Okay.
Like Gary Stein will pitch me a trade, and I'll be like, dude, I don't care about this.
You're
why are you spending time on a league that involves no money whatsoever? I don't understand that.
I don't know if you ever had the conversation on the show, but would you agree that the draft is actually the best part of fantasy
it's
football?
The part that, and in fact, in a perfect world, no trades.
Okay.
It would solve so many problems about fantasy football. In a perfect world, no trades.
Interesting.
The draft is the day. The draft is the point of fantasy football is getting together with your buddies.
Yeah.
naming football players, consuming alcohol and wings, and busting each other's balls. That is the point of fantasy football. Everything after that, like I hate fantasy football. It's just too time consuming. I still do it, but I do it because I want that glorious day at the beginning of the year of getting together with your friends for a fantasy football draft. And you'll understand the value far more of it as you get older, and you don't get to spend as much time with your boys, right? Fantasy football draft day becomes the day that you go out of your way in order to make sure that you're spending time with your boys, in order to make sure that you're spending time together and celebrating and having some revelry, because you don't get to do it nearly as much for the rest of the year. So...
Well, so before I started working in baseball at all, I used to play fantasy baseball, and that was something where you had to change your lineup every single day and add guys in and move guys out, and that's the most stressful thing in the entire world, because you've got to remember every day when you wake up, I've got to set my fantasy baseball lineup today, and then there'll be guys that get injured because that's what happens in baseball over 162 games. And it's probably one of the worst things ever. I do not recommend.
I had to bail on fantasy baseball at a very young age. Like, to try to remember who's making 2 starts one week and who is. Like, it's just, I just had to bail. I had to say no mas when it came to that. The Tommy Pham, Jock Peterson story is my favorite story of all time. I mean, it's just, and then Jock Peterson going out of his way. I was talking about this with Hannah Kaiser from Yahoo Sports the other day. Like, you'll have players that just never want to talk, never want to give information, and then all of a sudden, Jock Peterson wanted to tell you the entire history of he wanted to show you receipts on his phone. Like, he wanted to give as much information as he possibly could about what had happened. It's simply wonderful. All right, so what are we calling?
Well, let's give a call back right now.
Very good. We'll try that one more time.
Which one of these numbers do you want me to try?
No. I'm saying that the first one is our hotline.
Oh, that's us.
If for some reason you have an issue, text her and say, hey, could you call us on this number?
Perfect.
Right.
We'll do that.
Zack Goodman is here with us, helping us out. Appreciate that. You hear Zach on the bat around every Saturday. This is the final day for you to take advantage of Glory Days Grill's spring seasonal menu. It's gone. Gone, Daddy, gone. The love is gone after today. Now, there'll be a new delicious seasonal menu at your neighborhood Glory Days Grill. That's a promise. But today's your last chance for the opener, the flash fried pork belly with the Korean No. 2 sauce, the Cracker Jack sundae, all of those things. You want to try them? Get over to Glory Days Grill today. Put your order in glorydaysgrill.com. Today, the final day of the spring seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill. I got to see Top Gun Maverick on Saturday night. It was wonderful. I nearly cried. And by that, I mean I definitely cried, but did my best to make it look like I was yawning, and so no one would think I was crying. It was perfect. What an event it was. I happened to find out last week that a former local athlete, a former Navy soccer player, happened to be involved with Top Gun Maverick, and I want to find out more about it. Her story is fascinating in and of itself. It's a pleasure for us to welcome into the program Commander Kristen Dragon Hansen, who's with us now here on GCR. Commander, it's Glenn and Zach. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us. It's an honor to chat with you.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, I'm assuming you've seen the movie at this point.
I have.
Okay. Can you detail through with me how you got involved, got hooked up with Monica, what is the story in you being a part of Top Gun Maverick?
At the time that they were filming up in Fallon, Nevada, where Top Gun Actual is up there, the schoolhouse is there, I happened to be working at a different department on the base, and when they were looking for pilots to fly in the movie, the skipper of Top Gun at the time asked if I'd be interested in flying during the week that they were out there, and I said absolutely, and that's about it. I get to meet Monica and the cast, and it was a fabulous experience.
Wow! So, when they approach you about this, was it something that you were like, did it hit you? This is a really big deal, or was it just sort of like, this is what I'm going to do today?
I think it is definitely unique. There is something to be said when Paramount moves into one of the hangars, and it is a very impressive organization. So it definitely was not just going to work as normal. I don't go through hair and makeup before I go flying usually. So
right.
That in itself was very unique. But it was a very watching Paramount and all the actors and everybody who is part of the production get ready to go through the shoot and, get the shots they were looking for airborne was just really cool to see, and how much they really cared about getting it right and making the most of the time that we had airborne. So it was really cool.
I mean, it sounds really cool. So when you say you were out flying, like when we see scenes in the movie, were you flying in some of those scenes, and just the magic of cinema made it look like someone else was flying in those scenes?
Some of the scenes, yes, I was flying in them. There's obviously a huge group of people that were involved with it that get to fly. I was very lucky to get to fly with Monica and Louis Pullman for their scenes in some of the beginning of the shots, and then one of the lieutenants, Amy from across the street at one of our rags, she flew Monica for kind of the mission scenes. So they have a fabulous camera system that they set up and worked with the Navy to make sure they could put the cameras into the aircraft safely. So there were about 6 cameras, if I remember correctly, looking back on the actors, and there were 2 over the front, over the shoulders of the pilots. So almost all the scenes that you see flying around, the actors are actually in the aircraft doing their thing. And then obviously they did some magic to make it look, for the 2-seat aircraft, that, the actors were in the front with their Wizzo in the back. But there was a lot of effort to make sure that, when we turned, we tried to tell them which way we were turning so they could look in that direction.
Wow.
And it looked more natural of how they were operating the aircraft.
Commander Kristen Dragon Hansen, a former Navy women's soccer player. She's with us here on GCR. Commander, I think that's one of the things that jumped out most at me about the movie is, like, it makes it work. It doesn't come off as campy in any way. Like, you are gripped to all of this. You know what it is. Clearly you were doing it, right? Like, this is your life. And did you feel some of that? Like, oh my God, this really does. It comes off the way that it kind of feels like to be flying in these aircraft.
Yeah, it's so much fun to watch. I think all of us who did the flying were just super stoked to see the footage that came out of it. I mean, we don't have cameras in the aircraft that show what the movie can show. Even when we've snuck GoPros up over the years, it doesn't. They're great footage, but nothing like the IMAX cameras that they have in the aircraft. So I think for us, the coolest part was to be able to see the aircraft on the big screen, and it's what it looks like, or the closest it looks like that I've ever seen. From being the aircraft itself to actually being able to see it on a screen.
That's really cool. All right, so in your life, did you have to deal with, like, were you ever out somewhere and because you're a pilot, like, somebody came up to you and tried to sing "You've Lost That Loving Feeling" to you? Like, have you had to deal with, like, Top Gun, just jokes or whatever over the years going into this?
Oh, of course. I think I've been dragged on a couple of stages for karaoke a couple of times, or actually, it's a fine if you're in the Top Gun building itself. If you quote the movie,
are you serious?
Joke, you have to pay. You have to pay money. Yeah, but it's all in fun and good jest. I mean, no matter how much we say, oh, we never saw it. Every single one of us has seen it multiple times and grew up with it. So, but yeah, it's just some good razzing that goes on behind the scenes.
So but that didn't make you roll your eyes at all when, like, you found out there was going to be another Top Gun. You weren't like, oh God, really? We're gonna have to deal with this for another 20 years?
Me, not personally. Maybe some of the guys out there, but again, they all secretly love it, I think. But we were excited to see how it came out, and I think we're all very impressed in the final product, and that they did a great job of paying homage to the older movie while still moving forward with the new movie. So I think it came out great.
No question. All right, we got to know about you. How did you, Commander, become Dragon? Like, give me your path from when you were here in Annapolis and getting your naval career started to becoming, I'm not trying to toot your horn, but a legend within this community.
Oh, definitely not a legend by any stretch of the imagination, but I think I pretty much had the normal career path for aviation, or at least for a lot of us. There's a couple different paths you can take within the community, but after graduation, did flight school down in Pensacola, Florida, and Meridian, Mississippi. Ended up out here in Lemoore, California when I selected Hornets, which is what I had wanted. So I was very excited about that. And From there, I've just been bouncing around my fleet squadrons. Been in a couple of squadrons out here in Lemoore. Was lucky enough to go through Top Gun when I was a junior officer, and worked at some of the weapons schools out here in Lemoore as well. And then, as we made mention too, I was up in Fallon teaching air wing integration so when the aircraft carrier goes out to sea, our department worked on getting all the airplanes on the carrier to figure out how to work together. And then came back here to Lemoore. I'm currently a part of BFA 25 and having a great time. The people are amazing in the Navy from beginning to end. So I think looking back on it, that's been the coolest part. Just the fellow pilots, our maintainers, our ground officers, every person in this organization has just been absolutely fabulous to work with.
That's really cool. And where specifically did Dragon come from?
Everybody gets a nickname when you show up to the squadron. It's usually after you do something stupid. For me, we were rolling movies, and I love to play How to Train Your Dragon, just mostly because it bothered the guys, so it kind of stuck.
I was really hoping it was going to be something more badass than that, if I got to be honest with you, Commander.
No, the Navy ones are never badass.
Okay.
They're usually pretty self-deprecating. We make fun of the Air Force because they all have, cool call signs. We're like, no, we kind of make fun of ourselves in the Navy.
That's pretty great, actually. That is pretty great. Did this experience make you want to say, I hope they make another? I hope that, Miles and Lewis Pullman and Monica and all them, I hope that there's future Top Gun movies because I'd love to be involved with them.
I would love to work with them again. They set the bar really high from themselves, and if anybody could do it again, it would definitely be them. But it was such a pleasure to work with them all. Monica is an outstanding actress and even a better person. So it was just so nice to get to meet her and work with her. And it was so much fun flying with Lewis and all those guys. So if they could pull it off, I think they have to keep the same cast because I think they did such a great job. But who knows? I know everybody said that they couldn't come up with a sequel that would be as good as the first, and they pulled it off. So I guess we'll have to find out.
Oh, it was just so delightful. What a delightful film. When I was reading about the training they went through, the actors, and I read about something called I believe it's the Helo Dunker. Can you tell? Because when I read about this sounds like a form of torture. I'm the type with anxiety. Whenever I drive over a bridge, I legitimately start looking around okay, if this bridge collapses right now, what do I have to do in order to survive the bridge collapsing? This sounds like a form of hell I couldn't possibly imagine, and reminds me of why we have such reverence for people like you and what you do. Can you explain to people what the Helo Dunker is that these actors legitimately went through in training for this film?
Yeah, it's definitely as bad as it sounds. All of us dread it, and all of us have gone through it a couple of times at this point in our careers, and it is nothing we look forward to. So that being said, I have unfortunately known people who have had to use the skills that they learned and were better off for it and are alive today to tell the story. So there is a reason behind all things, but essentially, especially in a F-18, if you eject over water, the most likely way you're going to get rescued is from a helicopter. And then also, once in a while, you might find yourself on a helicopter going to and from the ship. So they want you to be able to know how to get out of a helicopter if it goes down in the water. So what they do is they literally have you buckle into the frame of it doesn't look like a helicopter, but it looks like this big tube with seats in it and fake windows and doors. Have you buckle into it and then go through multiple iterations of having that frame dropped into the water. It flips upside down, and then you have to make your way out with about 4 or 5 other people. And you're blindfolded on some of the iterations. You have to swim the length of the fake helicopter a couple of times, open doors, all while underwater. So it's pretty miserable.
Nope.
Don't recommend it at all.
Nope. There is a reason why you are Commander Kristen Dragon Hansen, and I'm an idiot who talks about sports.
You're not. You're probably doing it right. That is the smarter way to go.
God, that sounds like absolute hell, like the definition of the concept of torture. And again, a reminder of why we have such great reverence for people like you that are willing to go through that, and remarkable. And did it mean something to you in dealing with these actors that they did go through that type of training, that they put themselves through in order, again, to try to make this as serious and as legitimate as they possibly could?
Yeah, absolutely. And some of it on the surface is safety, for them to be able to get in the aircraft. We had them do that so that they would be safe themselves if in the absolute worst case scenario. But all of them put in a ton of effort into learning about the community and what it was like to be in a ready room and what it was like to work together airborne and to prepare for missions. So, and all of them took that very seriously. So I think it was cool to see them go through that just so they understood a little bit more of the community as a whole and the training that was involved. So, and I think, that was something that we all appreciated a lot, the amount of effort that they put in to not only making a great movie, but to make sure that it was as accurate as you could make it while still being entertaining.
It really did come off that way. Commander, but before I let you go, only because of the uniqueness of when I'm chatting with you, can you put into words when people talk about Memorial Day and this weekend, and people say, we still struggle with people saying the phrase Happy Memorial Day, right, in the United States. Can you tell me what it is that this weekend means to you and your service and the people that you have known and lost in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of funny, not funny, but, watching the movie older now, when I saw it when I was a kid, it was like affirmation of, yeah, I really want to do that. And then, sitting back and watching the movie now, you have a just much different perspective on life and the community. And you remember when you were a lieutenant and you're just, gung-ho, ready to go, can't wait. And, fast forward, to where I am in my career now. And there's almost nobody in this community that hasn't lost somebody, hasn't lost friends or shipmates, or there's nobody, even if you don't know that person, 20 people that were really good friends with that person after an accident. And it's, you kind of have to step back and, look at that and realize that we all do this because we love it and it's important to us, and, it's part of a bigger picture, but it doesn't make it any less difficult, when, your friends don't come home that day, and you're close to not only them, but their families. So, that being said, I don't think any of the people that we flew with would have changed a thing. I don't think there would be any regret in their mind for getting in the airplane the day that they didn't come back, and they wouldn't want us to stop doing what we're doing either. So we always stop and think about the list of friends that we lost, but at the same time know that we're doing homage to their memory by getting out there and continuing to do what we do.
It's so well stated, and it's why we have such incredible reverence. And how about Karen Gabara, still in 2022, still getting the job done? I know, just a year removed from another trip to the NCAA tournament. It's got to be pretty remarkable to see the run that she's had after, I don't want to age you, but a couple decades removed from your own playing career.
Right? They're still going at it. It's awesome to see. I'm looking forward to hopefully moving back to the East Coast here in the next year and being able to finally get back and watch some Navy women's soccer games. So super excited about that. I didn't realize, I think we did a all year soccer reunion a couple of years back now. And I didn't realize how early on in the program I was. Kind of cool. I was like, the program was still kind of new there. And as you said, we're a couple of decades in now, and they're still doing great. So it's awesome to see them doing so well.
Commander Kristen Dragon Hansen, what an honor to chat with you this morning. It's so cool. The movie is so unbelievably good, and I can't imagine how much it meant to all of you that it worked out the way that it did. Congratulations on that, and seriously, thank you for all of your service to our country. It means a great deal. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Thanks for having me, sir.
Commander Kristen Dragon Hansen. Ooh, we got it. Yep, there we go. There we go. It's all right, Zach.
These buttons aren't pressing today, if you ask me. These buttons just aren't pressing.
It's the buttons' fault.
It's the buttons' fault. Maybe I have bad hands. I don't know.
Go see Maverick. It's so good. It's so good. And, like, there's little things you can nitpick about it, right? Like, my buddy Kevin Valkenburg was talking about that yesterday. There are some absurdities within the plot, and I would say that they were trying to rush through some things early on to set things back up.
Mm-hmm.
It is irrelevant. What it gets to is so bloody good, it does not matter. Like, it does not matter any of the little things you can nitpick about it. It is an event. It is what I remember summer blockbusters being. It was the joy that I had as a kid going to see an Independence Day, going to see a big must-watch on a huge screen motion picture and feel it. When I heard the guitar riff, I genuinely got goosebumps. And, look, we can make fun of Tom Cruise, the person, all we want. Tom Cruise, the movie star, is almost unimpeachable. Like, the number of movies that are so much better than they had any business being that involved, there's no reason why all these Mission Impossible movies should still be good at this point. There's no reason why The Edge of Tomorrow should have been any good. The dude makes really good movies. And we can make fun of him, I get it, because he's a quirky human. But my God, he makes good movies.
You set the bar really high for this movie. I might have to see it
good.
now. I think I'm going to have to.
Really, really, really good.
How long would I have to wait, probably?
I had to cheat on my friend Simon Had to Marry Him in order to go see it.
Oh, right.
And there was a lot of controversy there. I cheated on my friend.
Talk about controversy.
I cheated with my wife, which is just the cheapest.
What did your wife think?
Oh, she loved it. I mean, she had the time of her life. Now, she loves Top Gun, and so it made sense. Like, you got to understand, people will tell you if you're not a Top Gun person, you'll still be able to love this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. But there is the burden of sometimes movies are made just for the sake of making them, right? Like, let's just do another Top Gun movie. Let's just do another.
Well, because they're going to make money, right? I mean,
this ain't that.
Yeah.
This works. This is wonderful. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's a joy, man. We got to wrap up because we got to get to Simply the Bits. You got a tidbit?
I do have a tidbit.
Tidbit brought to you by the print issue of Pressbox, which is available right now at your neighborhood Royal Farms and at the hundreds of locations around town where you find Pressbox. Or read it all, PressboxOnline.com. Adley Rutschman is on the cover, a wonderful cover story from Luke Jackson about his passion for catching, his passion for baseball, and why it is that he was such a leader on day one when he arrived in the major leagues. Again, pick it up for free right now at your neighborhood Royal Farms.
All right, Glenn. So Ryan Mountcastle, if you watched the game last night, which I'm sure you did, or I'm not sure if you did, whatever, it doesn't matter. But Ryan Mountcastle had 4 hits, but he was a triple short of the cycle last night. So there are 5 Orioles that have hit a cycle in their career, and I want you to name the 5 Orioles and when the cycles happened.
I actually think, what year? I couldn't tell you what year. The years
you can
never,
take a guess.
No, years are never a thing for me.
I did this exact trivia for Paul Valley. He did pretty well.
Well, I think the fortune. I actually want to say that Paul did this, not that.
Oh, Paul did this for you?
Maybe because
he stole
it was
my
inspired
trivia.
by you. And I want to say I remembered 4 out. So Felix PA, of course, and whatever 2010.
Oh, you're close. 2009.
Yeah.
There's one of them.
Cal Ripken in 82?
84.
84.
You're close.
I mean, Aubrey Huff in, that would have been 06? 07.
07.
Brooks, I don't know what year.
Oh, this is good. You're doing well here.
Brooks was, what year was it? I don't remember.
1960 versus Chicago.
Wow, that was earlier than I thought it was. And then I think this happened to me the first time where I forgot who the 5th one was. And it was I thought it was it more modern?
It was modern.
And it was it was actually super recent. I've just completely forgotten.
Yeah.
I've completely forgotten about it.
We'll call it that.
All right, just remind me because we're running
Jonathan
out of time.
VR,
That's
2019.
That's who it was. Yeah. That's twice that I've forgotten Jonathan VR in the list of Orioles cycles. Twice in the span of 3 months.
I did not know
Paul
did
that. I was told.
Okay.
Despite the fact that I was told, I still forgot about it.
No
which is
worries.
Not a good
stuff.
sign.
Good stuff.
Not a good sign. All right, Tubular brought to you by the Baltimore Police. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police. Make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages, excellent benefits on day one. Join for good, bpdrecruit.org. Here's what's coming up tonight, totally tubular-wise. Orioles indeed are back home. Open up a series with the Mariners on Masson 2, 7 o'clock. George Kirby against TBA.
Yeah, it's actually going to be Brian Baker. They did
it's going to be so they're bullpenning.
Bullpen game.
They're
yes.
bullpenning tonight.
Yes.
So it's not Dean Kremer, although he could still be part of the equation, I guess, somehow.
Maybe.
But Brian Baker will be the first pitcher today. Masson Nationals Mets at 7, TBS Angels Yankees at 7, MLB Network Pirates Dodgers at 10, TNT Game 1 of the NHL's Western Conference Finals, the Oilers and Avalanche at 8 o'clock. Tennis Channel French Open developing story. Carlos Alcaraz has dropped the first set to Alexander Zverev, which is There would be a horrendous way for that to go. It's not okay. Rafael Nadal, Novak Djokovic, scheduled to start at about 2:45 this afternoon. Everything else, go to GlennClarkRadio.com. Sports, non-sports-wise, anything that stands out?
Not too many things, but Holy Moly is on tonight, 8
Sure.
o'clock on
Sure.
ABC. And then we've got Bill Burr on Jimmy Kimmel, if you're interested.
I do
in
like Bill
that.
Burr.
So there's that.
There we go.
And finish up Stranger Things, if you have.
I have not even been able to start.
Oh,
Just
it's
too much
excellent,
going on.
Glenn.
Oh, and the Norm Macdonald thing came out yesterday. I haven't been able to watch that either. I got a lot on my list. Tennis gets in the
Got
way.
a lot to-
Tennis is
sure.
probably. And I wanted to watch the Orioles. I legitimately wanted to watch the Orioles. Way too much going. And there was lacrosse championship yesterday.
Yes.
Way too much good sports is getting in the way of the things I really want to watch. Stupid sports.
Fair enough.
Hey, thanks today to to Commander Kristen Hansen. Thanks to John Tillman and to Patrick Stevens. We'll get all that up in the greatest hits section of the tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Drew will join us tomorrow. We'll attempt again to go down to Norfolk. Tomorrow's supposed to be our Bowie Day. We'll see if that plays out. And I believe Mike Loxley is actually going to join us tomorrow.
Okay.
Haven't chatted with him since he agreed to a contract extension, so wanted to do that. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, the Baltimore Police, Grade 8's Memorabilia, the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. And thanks to Zach. It's Zack Goodman.
At Z Goodman 20.
At Z Goodman 20.
Yes.
That's how you follow him on Twitter. Thanks to Griffin, at Griffin_Bass. Thanks to Ryan, at RexFexRyan. Follow us, at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Tuesday night. Go Birds. Duke sucks. Ohio State sucks, too. If you're with us audio-wise, do nothing. If you're on video, give us 1 minute. We'll be back with Simply the Bets.